Vampire the Masquerade, a Bloodlines 2, a legendary game that literally died in less than 4 hours. And I'm, by the way, not joking about it dying less than in 4 hours. If you look at this chart, people are starting to lose interest 4 hours into the game, and you already see a drop off. It is insanity. You barely ever see something this insane, this wild in any game, and yet Bloodlines 2 pulled it off. Now, granted, all of us know that Bloodlines 2 is just a skinwalker situation, that it's just using the name to goad people into buying it. I can't really say what the budget for this game is, but I would not be surprised if they were literally hundreds of millions down the drain, down the bucket, with the development cost for this game. It took more than 10 years, multiple studios, multiple developers working on this to push this out the window. And at the end, it was Paradox who tried to sell you Day 1 DLC. Now, the story is pretty bad, but there is actually a silver lining in all of this, and that's what we're going to be talking about today primarily, because I know a lot of people are not seeing this. But let me put it into perspective. Bloodlines 2 was a clear disaster 4 hours in because people just lost interest. And then in the next day, it lost roughly 40% of its player base, which is ridiculously bad numbers. Losing 50% of your player base for even remotely decent games takes roughly 3 to 4 weeks on average. Bloodlines did slightly better than that in 1 day. But now, well, after that, it lost 20% more. Well, actually, less than 20%, and then it's kind of stable, which is quite surprising. And you know what's the best comparison to this? Borderlands 4. Borderlands 4 died in less than a week, honestly. And these things are also comparable. Now, granted, it's harder to compare them because Borderlands went out on a Thursday, and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 went out on a Tuesday, which is, by the way, stupid in general, because that means you're not going to be picking up the highs and peaks of the Saturdays and Sundays, because the hype is going to be halfway gone. So, arguably one of the worst days to actually launch your product, but that's fine. Borderlands at least was smarter than that. But then Borderlands, after their first weekend, literally lost 1/3 of their player base in just, 5 days, effectively. Vampire the Masquerade has been out only for 4 days. And I just want you to remember a couple of things. Borderlands 4 is complete garbage. Borderlands 4 has already lost 90% of its player base. Now, granted, for Borderlands, a month and 2 weeks have passed or something like that since its release. But Borderlands 4 is absolutely a financial failure. We know this. Randy Pitchford has already made that abundantly clear with his ridiculous Twitter tirades and escapades. And yet, Vampire the Masquerade is losing less people than Borderlands 4. And this is the good news. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing that can save Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This thing is completely dead and gone. But this just shows, again, something that I talked about previously. Everyone wants a vampire game. Everyone wants a werewolf game. Everyone wants and is drooling over a World of Darkness franchise game. That's just how it is. Look at this. 55% positive reviews on Steam. And it would die in 4 hours. And yet, it's not going under 11k players. This is on a theoretical basis. If this was an MMORPG with a start as bad as this would be pretty good considering how stable these last couple of days look. Now, granted, all in the grand scheme of things, it's still pretty bad. But this is a remarkable show of resilience, and that needs to be applauded. And this is what I have been saying for a long time. The World of Darkness fans are there. And this pretty much game was only bought by Super World of Darkness fans because, well, what else are you gonna play, right? the first Bloodlines game for the 57th millionth time? Probably not. You're gonna try something new, even though this was an absolute woke shit show disaster. So when you know all of this, even though it's just 4 days and Borderlands has a month of statistics for us to sort through, it kind of looks honestly that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is performing better than Borderlands, does it not? Because it almost does. I did the math, so I'm not gonna bore you with it, but Vampire the Masquerade, on a statistical level, is roughly performing currently only 10% lower than what Borderlands graphs are performing. That is amazing. And do you know why that is amazing? That's amazing because what I said previously, Borderlands 4 is a shit show. It is a complete disaster. It is probably one of the worst Borderlands games ever. I mean, have you seen the game? Have you played the game? The guns are bad. The gunplay is ass. All identity of everything is lost. 100 reused enemies. Literally just 3 skins. There's like basically only 3 enemy types in this fucking game on a large scale. All the bosses, all the raid bosses, all the everything are just 3 skins of the Timekeeper. One has a tail. One has spiky things. Yes, it's that lazy, it's that bad. Jesus fucking Christ. Borderlands is a slop shit show. The Timekeeper is the worst villain. One of the worst villains ever honestly made. He doesn't exist for 90% of the game, and when he does, you wish he didn't. That's how bad it is. On all objective standards, Borderlands 4 is complete trash. 60% positive reviews on Steam. Disaster. 90% player drop off in a month. Disaster. And yet, Bloodlines 2 is somehow not doing a lot worse than that. It's just doing this much slightly worse than it. Because make no mistake, it's doing worse than it. By the way, like the video right now. Press that like button, hype it up on a mobile device, takes less than a second, and I greatly appreciate. If you think this is important and understand how Bloodlines 2 is just slightly worse than Borderlands 4, and the kicker is still coming, okay? I'm just warming you up. The funniest part is coming up soon, okay? The real good thing about the Bloodlines franchise, well, not the Bloodlines, but the Vampire the Masquerade franchise, and I'm gonna give it to you now, but like the video, okay? The kicker is, if someone had to ask me what is a better game, a Bloodlines 2 or Borderlands 4, I mean, it's hands down Borderlands. It's not even a question. Bloodlines 2 is a disgrace on every level. Okay? Borderlands 4 fails at everything. Bloodlines 2 is an absolute disgrace. If I had to quantify how many times Bloodlines 2 is a worse game than Borderlands 4, I would easily say that Bloodlines 2 is maybe roughly 100 times baseline worse than Borderlands 4. I like nothing about Borderlands 4, and still I like even less about Bloodlines 2. And the fact that this game is performing just kind of slightly, just a little bit technically worse, and probably better in the long term of scales than Borderlands 4 is a goddamn miracle, boys. Both are failures, but you need to understand that this game should be like Avowed currently looks like, that it has lost literally 99.9% of its player base. I think Avowed has like... How much does Avowed have? Yeah, 300 players from an all-time peak of 19k. This is 7%. This is 7 fucking... No, wait, no. 6. This is 6.2% roughly player attention. Like, this is a disaster. This is an absolute shit show. You need to understand, Bloodlines was supposed to be this, but instead it's more close to Borderlands and Borderlands. And this is the thing. This is just how powerful the World of Darkness IP in general is. The fans for this thing exist. I wanted this to be a success. If you watched my coverage and me talking about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 from the start, you know that I wanted it to be a success. I wasn't even that particularly happy when it actually came out and failed. I wished I was wrong. The franchise is ridiculously strong. Again, I said this last video. I think Vampire the Masquerade could easily be as strong of a cultural phenomenon thing as something as Warhammer 40k. Easy, easy. How many people like Vampire the Masquerade and like Warhammer here? Probably a lot. I like the two franchises a lot. It's really cool, and they scratch the itch on completely different things also. So yeah, it's a predictable disaster. It was poor as fuck, but it has so much potential. It has so much potential. So I'm hoping that someone who actually makes or can make a good game picks this up and does something with it. Because the numbers, the sales, they can be here. We're waiting. We're just patiently waiting for something that actually is worth putting money into. In any case, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye.